see if I can squeak it out. If not, they'll just be. Yes, ma'am. Don't see why not. Look, here's a picture of me in this acres. Well, I used the picture. I'll stick right here. Just Cynthia, do you not want to use the pulpit mic? Do you not want to use the pulpit mic? Oh, it's cool. Be wherever you want. It's okay. I understand.
Test, 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 test. 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 Sounds good, Jay. Good job. Hey, how are y'all? All right, all right, all right. Okay. It's so good to see you all this morning. Thank you for being here on a beautiful fall day. What is this? This has been part of the church longer than me, for sure. Probably several of us. But we're going to change its location so we pay attention to it just for today. Good morning. It's great to see everybody this morning. I hope that you're doing very well. We are in a visioning process in our congregation. We are talking about who we are and who we want to be as a people. And we are setting, Fasu, how are you? Come in. When genius musicians come, even on the Sundays when they're not playing, then we're doing well. It's wonderful to see you. We're in a visioning process. We are talking about our future. and building a future together. Building a future together. We have had sessions all this past month where people gathered together to talk about what is meaningful to them in the life of this church. When they have felt really connected or really energized or really motivated, so that together we can build a sense of who we want to be as a people out of the best of our experiences. These have been wonderful sessions. And there are 2 more for this round. And we're going to do more stuff in the winter and the spring. We're not nearly done. But for this fall, there are only 2 more sessions. One is on Tuesday night over Zoom. So if you don't like coming out at night, if you love the computer, if you're one of the 1 people on the face of the earth who's not sick of Zoom after the last 3 years, then the Tuesday night meeting is for you. And I want to ask you, please, before you leave today, and even during the greeting time if you want, even during the sermon when you get so bored that you need to stand up so you don't fall asleep, come up and sign up on this sheet to be part of the gathering on Tuesday night. And if you can't stand Zoom, and you much prefer to be in person, and you love chili or other kinds of food, or you're just dying to see what the room underneath us, literally underneath us, looks like in Wild Hall, then what I want to ask you to do is to sign up to be here on October 30th after the service. As soon as the service is over on October 30th, we're going to have the last of our fall meetings right beneath us. You can take the stairs or the elevator or the back door, and you can eat the food that people bring. Now, we've had a lot of people take part in this already, and we got a lot of people who haven't yet. And this is what I want you to know. This is what I want you to know. You matter in this. You matter in this. Whether you are here for the first time today, or whether you've been here since the universe began, or anything in between, you matter in this. Because it is our combined energy that shapes who we are. Our movement, our UU movement, it is built on us all coming from radically different places to the hard work of fusing together across all those differences to make a difference in our world. We know the difference that this place can make because we felt it in our own lives. And the reason we're doing this is because we think there's more difference for us to make in the life of this community, in the life of our nation, in the life of our world. Don't miss this chance. Don't miss it. Choosing not to participate is also a choice. What we want is your voice.
I thank you, God, for most this amazing day, for the leaping greenleaf spirits of trees, and a blue true dream of sky, and for everything which is natural, which is infinite, which is yes. You have died, am alive again today, and this is the Son's birthday. This is the birthday of life, and love and wings, and of the gay, great happening, illimitably earth. touching, hearing, seething, breathing, and he lifted from the no of all nothing, human merely being down the unimaginable you. Now the ears of my ears awake, and the eyes of my eyes are opened.
Thank you, Sydney. That was amazing. And if you sit where I sit, you'll notice that what she has on her stand is the order of service. There's no notes. I don't know how you do that. Good morning. My name is Susan Tarragano, and I serve on the Board of Trustees of the Unitarian Universalist Church of Spartanburg. It's my delight to welcome all of you this morning, whether you are here virtually or joining us in person. This is a welcoming congregation where everyone is welcome just as we are. Let me share with you a few announcements. There are many, many more on the sheet titled Connect at the back of your bulletin this morning. First of all, welcome to visitors. If you are visiting with us this morning, we would love to meet you and share more about the life of this congregation. Visitor cards may be found in the pocket on the back of the chair in front of you. Please feel welcome to fill one out and place it in the offering plate during the service so we can connect with you. If you signed up for the Pathway to Membership class, it is today. Following the morning service, and lunch will be provided. Please head downstairs to Wild Hall. You can use the stairs or the elevator after the service. And if you miss signing up for this class, see Deb Williams and she can get you on the list for the next one because they are lots of fun. Upstate Pride March and Festival. The Pride March and Festival is returning. It will be held on Saturday, November 5th at Barnett Park. The march begins at 11 a.m. and the festival will run from 12 to 5 p.m. As many of you know, the very first Pride March and Festival was held on our church grounds, and we are proud to have participated in every single one since. We have an amazing team leading us this year: Stacy Jackson, Lacey Lipe, Faith Taylor, and Mary Underwood. If you want to come to the Pride Festival and enjoy the day, that's great, but we could also use your help. We need volunteers to help set up, staff the tent, break down the tent, and bake cookies. Sign up via information on this weekly happenings. Thank you for making this a place of warmth and kindness every time we gather across all of our differences. Thank you, everyone, for all you do and all you give to make this world more livable for every one of us. Welcome.
Welcome. Good morning. My name is Cynthia Lanier, and I'm your worship leader today. Kara Dallin will be reading the chalice this morning. Thank you.
Humboldt showed how nature could have an influence on people's imagination. Nature, he wrote, was in a mysterious communication with our inner feelings. A clear blue sky, for example, triggers different emotions than a heavy blanket of dark clouds. Tropical scenery, densely filled with banana and palm trees, has a different effect than an open forest of white-stemmed, slender birches. What we might take for granted today, that there is a correlation between the external world and our mood, was a revelation to Humboldt's readers. Poets had engaged with such ideas, but never a scientist.
For the beauty of the earth, for the splendor of the skies, for the love which from our birth over and around us lies. Source of all, to thee we raise this our hymn of grateful praise. For the joy of ear and eye, for the heart and mind's delight, for the mystic harmony, linking sense to sound and sight. Source of all, to thee we raise this our hymn of grateful praise. For the wonder of each hour of the day and of the night, hill and vale and tree and flower, sun and moon and stars of light. Source of all, to thee we raise this our hymn of grateful praise. For the joy of human care, sister, brother, parent, child, for the kinship we all share, for all gentle thoughts and mild. Source of all, to thee we raise this our hymn of grateful praise.
Now we do our rippling bowl. Notice our beautiful rippling bowl over here. We place a stone or shell into it to magnify our joys and lessen our concerns as the ripples go out. Kara will place 2 stones in the bowl for people who are watching virtually. Please come forward and place your stones and shells now.
Whoa, oh, mercy, mercy me. All things and what they used to be. No, where did all the blue skies go? Poison into the wind that blows from the south and east. Oh, oh, mercy, mercy me. All things ain't what they used to be. No, oil wasted on the ocean and upon our seas. Fish are full of mercury. Oh, oh, mercy, mercy me. All things ain't what they used to be now. Radio, underground, and in the sky. Animals and birds who live nearby are dying. Oh, mercy, mercy me. All things ain't what they used to be. No, what about this overcrowded land? How much is more abuse than man can stand?
Now it's time to say our covenant. Our covenant expresses the love we feel for our church and community. It can be found in our order of service, and I invite you to read it with me now. We are a people of faith and hope. Together we covenant to strive to become our better selves, to honor both the critical mind and the generous heart, to prove that diversity needs not be divisiveness, and to respond to systems of violence and oppression with the power of love beyond belief. Yep. This is the part that some people don't like, but we like to greet each other. We are a community of loving people who like to greet one another. We ask everyone to honor each other's wishes concerning personal space. You are also welcome to remain silently in your seat. For those of you watching virtually, feel free to text or phone someone you care about. And when you hear the music playing, please return quietly to your seats. Let the holy chaos begin.
ready to go? Whenever you Let me get everybody back in their spot.
Now is time during the service to consider giving financially to the church. Our Share the Plate this month is Project Rest. I'm excited to invite Angela Posez, a Director of Advocacy Services, to come forward and introduce her program. Half of our loose donations and all the Destiny funds go to this worthy project. And when Angela finishes, then the ushers will come forward.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for the donations. Let me begin with that. Like she said, my name is Angela Perez. I'm with Project Rest. Project Rest is the agency that provides assistance and services to victims of domestic violence and sexual assault. Some of the services that we provide are legal advocacy, shelter, transitional housing, and therapy services. We do trainings and we educate other service providers like law enforcement, attorneys, judges. So we do really appreciate all the help that we can get. I would like to take this opportunity to invite you all to a vigil that we have on, I think it's September the 20th? October 20th, I'm sorry. I'm so nervous. It's been a while since I have done this. October the 20th at 5 o'clock. It will be at Daniel Morgan Square. It will be to honor the victims of domestic violence. October is the Domestic Violence Awareness Month. So we take the opportunity to just, dedicate some time to remember and honor the victims. Thank you, everyone.
Our world is one world. What touches one affects us all. The seas that wash us round about, clouds that cover us, the rains that fall. Our world is one world. The thoughts we think affect us all. The way we build our attitudes with love or hate, we make a bridge or wall. Our world is one world. Its ways of wealth affect us all. The way we spend, the way we share, who are rich or poor, who'll stand or fall. Our world is one world, just like a ship that bears us all, where fear and greed can make many holes, but where our hearts can hear a different call.
I wonder if we can all give Angela another round of applause for coming and speaking in front of us and speaking about such a hard thing. To stand in front of a room of strangers and speak about something so crucial to our life together. Thank you, Angela. Join me in silence. Naturgemälde. We're spending this month thinking about Alexander von Humboldt, a 19th century scientist and explorer who reshaped the Western mind through his years of exploration and experimentation and writing. One of our members, Andrew Waters, asked that I speak about a book that was published just in the last few years about Humboldt. The title of the book is The Invention of Nature. Now, you know, and I know, and scientists this week, after last week, have reminded me very clearly that none of us invented nature, and Humboldt certainly didn't invent nature. The title of the book is meant to be provocative and to push us to ask, what in the world is this about? The point is that Humboldt's observations, his research through personal experience and exploration, and through relentless data collection, and then pulling all of that together over a lifetime, reshaped the Western empirical mind and how it perceives nature, and especially our relationship with nature. That is the invention of nature that we're talking about. Humboldt, when he was not quite 30, left behind career and family in Germany and then in France, left behind all of his success and his upward trajectory in the Prussian bureaucracy, left it all behind to go on a trip, a voyage to Latin America. He spent 5 years traveling through the coasts and rainforests and llanos of Venezuela, throughout the Caribbean, especially in Cuba, then back into South America, across the Andes to Quito, and then to Lima, and finally traveling up to Mexico. 5 years in the early midpoint of his life diving deep into botany and geology and experimentation, to do what he loved, to engage with the world as deeply as he could. And what emerged from this reshaped us all. But when he was 2 years into this voyage, resting in Havana before venturing out again into the wilderness, he felt an immense loneliness. He'd been writing letters incessantly back home, but because he had spent months and months on the Orinoco River, and because he had moved from place to place and spent a great deal of his time just in small coastal villages, the post, if it had ever been sent in response to him, rarely ever reached him. The brother to whom he was very close throughout both of their lives had only had one letter reach Humboldt in Latin America. And so this man who had given up everything to dive deep into his passion to know the world, and who was pouring out his own resources in order to investigate the nature of the world as thoroughly and deeply as possible, looking for connectedness through everything, felt profoundly disconnected from the people who knew him the best. You can imagine him gathering trunk after trunk after trunk of specimen, pressed plants and animal and bird skins, notes after notes after notes, and rock samples that he'd crammed into his pockets on hikes to bring back and put into these containers, storing all of this in Havana prior to hurricane season, wondering, would it make it? Would it last? And would anybody know what he had done, what he had discovered? But the call of adventure pulled him. And so he went back into the wilderness once again. This man seeking truth about our world, seeking connection in our world, went out into deep disconnection from the world that he knew once more. And he traveled into the Andes. Some people speculate that he became the most proficient mountaineer of his age because he climbed every volcano he could find, all in preparation for the major climb of this 5-year trip. Up the mountain that was considered to be the highest mountain in the world then, Chimborazo in the Andes, about 100 miles south of Quito, in what today is Ecuador. When Humboldt set out with 4 companions and porters, they were on mule. The mules laden with supplies, food and equipment, and especially their instruments, to take incessant measurements of everything around them. They began moving through rainforest and marveled at what to them was exotic flora, an unbelievable fauna, a world of imagination living all around them. And as they gained elevation, they broke out of the humidity of the rainforest into open plain and rock. And they watched as vicuna, like antelope, moved across that more open landscape, traveling on. And as they broke above tree line and moved through this vast open space, they could see the volcano of Chimborazo in the distance, moving towards it. And when they reached the foot of the mountain, they began to climb. At 13,000 feet, they had to leave their mules behind. And they resorted their equipment and went on foot. At 15,600 feet, their porters refused to go any further. And so the 4 adventurers in Humboldt's company, he and 3 friends, unpacked everything that they had and took only what they needed, their scientific instruments, and continued up the mountain. As they climbed elevation, they began to feel awful. Their eyes became bloodshot. Their gums began to bleed. They experienced headaches and then vertigo, always climbing further. And all along the way, every 100 yards or so, they would stop and unpack their bags and take readings, temperature, barometric pressure, altitude. They reached snow line and began to climb up into fresh fallen snow from the night before, heading towards the peak of this mountain covered in fog. They continued on and found themselves deep in fog, going hand and foot in a crawl over a ridge sometimes only about 2 inches wide, falling away on both sides, called the knife blade in Spanish, el cuchillo. The height was so vertiginous, the fog so dense, the cold so bitter, that afterwards, upon reflection, they remarked, "What we did was fairly dangerous." But with a persistence that I think borders on madness, Humboldt continued every few hundred yards to unpack his instruments and doggedly to take measurements. Think about the bitterness of the conditions. Think about what our hands feel like on a cold steering wheel on a mild winter day. And think about writing down the measurements once they've been taken. What is driving these men? What would spur someone to do this? What ridiculous passion. What would his family say if they had gotten his letters? And they ventured on. They came to the end of that thin ridge. They stopped, only 1,000 meters from the top of the mountain. And they were stymied. Opening before them was a huge crevasse, a snowfield. But they were into the early afternoon, and the ice sheet on the snowfield had begun to melt. One of their company stepped out on to this ice field to see if they could traverse it, and he disappeared into the snow to pull him out. And they were stopped. And as they stood there at the limit of their exertion, higher than even the early balloonists in Europe had been able to climb, the fog cleared, and they saw the crystalline white peak of the highest mountain in the world by their then reckoning, gleaming in the light before them. Humboldt looked at the world around him. This man of devoted learning, of dedicated testing and experiment. This man willing to push his limits for the sake of knowledge. He looked across the world laid out before his feet, and an image began to form in his mind. Layer upon layer of climate zone, based on altitude, different plants growing in different areas, and different animals able to survive. He looked around him at the vast, unfathomable beauty of the world, and a picture formed in his mind. When they finally made it back down, I don't know how, because their shoes were shredded by the rocks, and their feet were bare and bleeding by the time they got back down to camp. When they got back down and had recovered, he sketched in his notebooks a picture of the mountain and began to notate all of the measurements that he had made commensurate with the different elevations of the mountain. And then he began to record all of the different plant life that he'd observed on the mountain and its corresponding species on other mountains that he had climbed in other parts of the world. When his 5 years of traveling was over, and he returned to Europe to spend the rest of his life trying to make sense of everything he had seen and experienced, he worked with engravers to create an image of this mountain. You can see a very small version of it on the cover of the bulletin, there in your hand. The actual drawing is more than 3 feet long and 2 feet wide. It covers a tabletop. And in the book where it was published, it would fold out. You could see this remarkable picture of this mountain. And here is the brilliance of what he had created. Previously, assessments of botanical life were done based on taxonomy, on category. And scientists would produce tables of categories of species and the relationships they were understood to have according to the best learning of the time. But Humboldt on that mountain saw something different. He saw a world of interconnectedness. And he created, rather than charts and charts and charts, at which he was very good, and which he loved very dearly, I think, he created instead a painting. Naturgemälde just means a painting of nature, but it also has in it a sense of a unified image, a totalizing vision of what nature could be. It's just printed on the cover of our bulletin today. It's just an image that you can pull off the internet and stick into Microsoft Publisher and pass out to 70 or 80 people on a Sunday morning if you want. But Humboldt poured his money, his inheritance, his livelihood into the production of this beautiful, detailed picture. And he published these books in order to distribute them throughout the world, way more costly and difficult than what you hold in your hand today. And the reason he did this was because his vision from that mountaintop reshaped the imagination of the Western world. We see it in our own UU movement. Our 7th principle is the interconnectedness of all being, respect for the web of life and our part in it. And there is a direct link between that 7th principle that you can find on literature in this room and in every silver hymnal underneath your seats, and his drawing. When Humboldt published this image, philosophers and scientists and artists throughout the Western world suddenly saw the world in a completely different way. And thinkers like Emerson and Thoreau, and even the most challenging of Unitarians like Thomas Jefferson, radically redressed their understanding of what it meant to live in the world and to be part of the world, because the shock that this picture brought to their awareness. A fusion of art and science, a total vision of the web of life that broke open the Western mind to a new way of seeing. Why did Humboldt and his companions risk so much on that trip? Why be so foolish as to climb with altitude sickness across battering rocky ledges in ice that you know is melting with the noonday sun? Why risk so much for a painting? Because he knew his vision would change the world. feel in his bones that he saw something other people didn't see. And if he made it clear, not a chart or a text only, but a picture in the mind, if he could help people see what he saw from that height, it would change the world that people were living in. When I ask you to join me in thinking hard thoughts about our world and our place in it, when I ask you to give up an evening on Zoom, or to risk your life eating my chili on a Sunday afternoon, more dangerous than any mountain, I'm asking you to take a risk that our world cannot abide. I'm asking you to speak what you see is possible from your vantage point, from your height. And I'm asking you to risk hearing everyone else's vantage point too. Imagine our world, atomized down to tiny bits of information, pouring in at us at a dizzying rate so that it's hard to make sense of any of it. So many sources of information and so many perspectives and opinions that we just go numb from it all. A world where these pieces of information are pitted against each other and people make a lot of money yelling at each other from their different heights, shouting their different perspectives, never finding each other, never building a shared vision out of all those pieces of information. What I and this whole congregation are asking you to do is to go on a voyage into the heart of what we each care about most, a voyage that other people might look at and say, what idiots, what fools, what risk to self and soul to go climb those mountains with each other and think the things that they think. I'm asking you to go on that trip into the wilderness of our time, to climb to heights that others want nothing to do with, on the chance that together we will see something that can change our vision of the world. Why do I do this? Why waste my Sundays? Why not have a different job? Why pull this out of you? Why organize teams and push the teams and push the teams and push the teams? Why do this at all? Because I feel in myself there is a better world that is possible. That we are living in that world already, but we can't see it. We don't know the path. And it feels worth a life. My life and yours. To find it. For us. And for everyone we share this world with.
Though below me I feel ocean, standing on these mountains and plains, far away from the rolling ocean. Still my dry land heart can say, I've been sailing all my life now. Never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue bowl. Sun my sail and moon my rudder, as I ply the starry sea, leaning over the edge in wonder, casting questions into the deep, drifting here with my ship's companions, all we kindred pilgrim souls, making our way by the light of the heavens in our beautiful blue boat. I give thanks to the waves upholding me, hail the great winds urging me on, greet the infinite sea before me, sing the sky my sailor's song. I was born upon the fathoms, never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat.
Nature is a living whole, Humboldt said, not a dead aggregate. One single life had been poured over stones, plants, animals, and humankind. It was this universal profusion with which life is everywhere described that most inspired Humboldt. Even the atmosphere carried the kindles of future life, pollen, insect eggs, and seeds. Life was everywhere, and those organic powers are incessantly at work, he wrote. Humboldt was not so much interested in finding new isolated facts, but in connecting them. Individual phenomena were only important in their relation to the whole, he explained.
A mining inspector who says that even the rocks are alive. Vision changes the world. Let's do it.
We have spent